Bombshell. Princess Leonor royal wedding live from Denmark leaves Spain speechless. The palace lights. The world watching. A royal future unfolding in real time. But tonight, everything you thought you knew about Princess Leonor's royal destiny is about to shatter. Because while Spain expected a quiet, dignified ceremony, Denmark delivered a spectacle so breathtaking, so emotionally charged, that millions are still trying to catch their breath. And yet, what you're about to witness isn't the fairy tale the world predicted. It's something far deeper, far more human, and far more shocking. Princess Leonor, a royal wedding, a foreign kingdom, and one moment that left Spain frozen in absolute disbelief. Let's begin. For hours, Copenhagen's historic district had been slowly transforming into something out of a cinematic masterpiece. Roads were sealed. Guards in red and white stood shoulder to shoulder. The cold northern air shimmered with expectation. Because this wasn't just any royal event, this was the moment Spain's future queen stepped onto Danish soil, not as a military cadet, not as the heir to the Spanish throne, but as a bride. And yet, even in the stillness of the early morning, something felt different. Something felt larger than life. By the time the cathedral bells began to warm their heavy bronze, thousands of Danes filled the streets. But mixed among them, almost unbelievably, were Spanish flags waving with an emotion that couldn't be contained. The Spanish public had crossed borders, oceans, and expectations just to witness this moment unfold live. It was a moment of unity that no one had predicted. Not even the royal analysts who had been following Leonor's journey since her first public speech at age 13. And then it happened. The first car arrived. Inside it sat King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia, symbols of Spain's modern monarchy, yet today they wore an expression rarely seen. It wasn't tension. It wasn't pressure. It was pride, so profound, it radiated through the heavy Danish winter like warmth. Queen Letizia stepped out first, her gown a soft ivory that contrasted beautifully against the deep gray skies. Felipe followed, his posture as commanding as ever, but his eyes a glimmer softer. But Spain wasn't ready for what came next. From the second carriage, through its blurred frost-touched window, a silhouette appeared. The crowd went silent, silent in the way only history can silence a nation. Then the door opened, and Princess Leonor stepped out. The future queen of Spain. But today, simply a young woman in love. Her dress wasn't what royal watchers predicted. No dramatic cape, no heavy beading, no traditional mantilla veil. Instead, Leonor chose something Denmark had long been known to represent: simplicity, elegance, purity. A gown of soft satin, sculpted at the waist, falling in a long clean line that moved like liquid light when she walked. A small tiara rested above her carefully swept hair, a Spanish heirloom, but chosen in respect for her new Danish connection. The world erupted. It wasn't applause. It wasn't cheering. It was pure, reverberating awe. Because for the first time, the world didn't just see a princess. They saw a woman stepping into a life she had chosen, and that emotional truth hit Spain harder than anything else. As she approached her parents, Letizia instantly reached for her daughter's hands. And in a moment that will be replayed for years to come, the queen whispered something to Leonor that made her eyes fill instantly with tears. Tears of gratitude. Tears of weight. Tears of transition. This wasn't the moment Spain expected. But it was the moment Spain felt. And yet, this was only the beginning. The Danish royal family was already waiting at the cathedral entrance. Crown. Prince Christian, tall, serene, striking in his ceremonial uniform, stood just a few meters from Leonor. But when he looked at her, truly looked at her, something inside the crowd shifted. Because the world had seen royal couples before, but never a connection so unmasked, so uncalculated, so disarmingly real. The ceremony began with a procession that blended Spanish tradition with Danish regal style. A fusion that felt like a bridge between two nations, two cultures, and two futures. Inside the cathedral, the atmosphere was indescribable. Golden candlelight flickered across ancient stone. Violins surged with slow, trembling emotion. And the air felt impossibly heavy, as though the walls themselves understood the magnitude of what was happening. Leonor walked slowly, holding tightly to her father's arm. Felipe tried to appear composed, but anyone watching closely would have seen his eyes growing glassy. After all, this wasn't just a ceremony. This was the moment Spain's king watched his firstborn step into a destiny he had spent decades preparing her for. Halfway down the aisle, Leonor looked up at him. And in a rare, unguarded moment, Felipe leaned down and whispered something only she could hear. Her expression shifted instantly, her eyes shining, her breath trembling. The cameras zoomed in. Spain held its breath. Because it was in that fleeting second that millions understood, this wedding wasn't about politics or diplomacy. It wasn't about lineage or duty. It was about love. Real love. The kind the monarchy rarely shows. When Leonor finally reached Christian, he extended his hand slowly, his smile small but filled with awe. They stood face to face, two young royals, two future sovereigns, two hearts openly intertwined in front of the world. And the vows, oh, the vows left the cathedral trembling. Christian spoke first. His voice soft, cracking slightly, but strong enough to echo through the chamber. He spoke of partnership, of respect, of the weight they both carried, not just as heirs, but as human beings living under the brightest lights in the world. He promised, not as a prince, but as a man, to walk beside her through every chapter of their intertwined destinies. Then Leonor spoke. Her voice, steady, elegant, cut through the silence like a warm sunrise. She spoke of duty, yes. But more importantly, she spoke of courage. She spoke of a love born not under royal pressure, but under genuine companionship. She spoke of wanting to build a life that honored both Spain and Denmark, without losing the humanity that grounded them. At the final line of her vows, she faltered, just slightly. Her breath hitched, her eyes filled, and a single tear slid down her cheek. It was that tear, that one small, unplanned drop, that brought Spain to its knees emotionally. Moments later, when the officiant announced them married, officially, undeniably, the cathedral erupted in a roaring wave of applause. Felipe pulled Letizia close. Queen Margrethe wiped her eye discreetly. And even the guards outside the cathedral stood a fraction straighter. But the moment that truly shocked everyone came during the balcony appearance. The newly married couple stepped out onto the palace balcony to greet the thousands gathered below. But instead of a formal wave, instead of the reserved gesture royals normally give, Christian gently slipped his arm around Leonor's waist. She looked up at him, surprised but glowing. And then, with cameras rolling and global audiences watching, he pulled her into the softest, most heartfelt kiss. Spain erupted. The reaction was instant, emotional, volcanic. Not because of scandal, not because of protocol, but because it was real. A kiss not choreographed. Not rehearsed, not polished for optics. A kiss filled with the sincerity that modern monarchies desperately need. Hours later, during the reception, a small but deeply touching moment added yet another layer to the day's emotional tapestry. Leonor, now in her second gown, a flowing silk dress with delicate embroidery, stood to give a toast. Her voice was soft yet firm, her composure regal but vulnerable. She spoke of her childhood in Spain. Of duty, of responsibility, of training. She spoke of the pressures she had carried since she was old enough to read her own speeches. But then she said something that made the entire hall go silent. She said that Christian was the first person who ever made her feel like she mattered more than her title. It was a confession so raw, so unexpected, that even members of the Danish royal family seemed taken aback. Christian reached for her hand beneath the table. Felipe closed his eyes with pride. Letizia's face softened in a way only mothers can understand. But Spain was speechless. Because they had watched their future queen grow into a symbol, but on this night, they saw the woman behind the symbol. Later, as the night deepened, cameras captured the couple sharing a slow, quiet dance, no choreography, no formality. Just two young people in love, swaying gently as if the world wasn't watching. The song wasn't grand or operatic. It was soft, intimate, a lullaby of promises. And with every step, every touch, every glance, Spain understood something it had never fully embraced before. Leonor wasn't just stepping into marriage. She was stepping into a new era. A monarchy built on authenticity, humanity, and emotional truth. In the end, that was the true bombshell. Not the dress, not the kiss, not the spectacle, but the revelation that the girl Spain had watched grow for years, had finally stepped into her own heart. And she did it live, from Denmark, with the world watching. Spain will remember this day forever. Not because of protocol, not because of tradition, but because this royal wedding reminded the world that even under the weight of crowns and duty, love still finds a way to shine. And that shine, soft, brilliant, genuine, left Spain absolutely speechless.